Howdy, my cronies. Are you ready for this episode of Dr. Fright's Scary Stories? Let me tell you, quarantine has been hard on all of us, even on pumpkins such as myself. I haven't found a single roll of toilet paper since March. I mean, come on, if someone needed 300 rolls of toilet paper for a month of quarantine, they probably should have seen a doctor long before this pandemic. On a serious note, the story we have today can really mess up your sense of safety in a supernatural way.
When this whole coronavirus pandemic started and the restrictions of social gathering and interactions were stated, my parents decided that it was best for me to quarantine with my grandparents, who I love with all my heart. I usually visit my grandparents, who live in Georgia, about every month, but I never stay overnight. If you must know, even though my love for my grandparents is infinite, I have stayed to sleep a bunch of times through the years, and every time I hear someone walking in the floor upstairs. The sheer thought of the couple of experiences I've had in the past make my skin crawl with fear. The footsteps always start in the same side of the room, that is directly on top of the studio where I sleep in. Something casually walks from one side to the other and stops with a loud thud. This will happen maybe once or twice a night. I didn't start hearing this until I was about 14, when my grandparents made me start sleeping in the studio on the first floor because they began to sleep in separate bedrooms, you know. As a little backstory, I have always been afraid of the upstairs floor at their house. I don't know why, but it emanates a weird darkness and has always freaked me out to the point that I refuse to ever go up there alone. I'm 19 now and still won't go up there. There's one room specifically though. It's a long, narrow bedroom. When you open the door, there are closets on your left and right, a bed placed roughly in the middle of the room, and a window on the far side opposite of the door. I was told growing up by my grandparents that the sons of the previous owner claimed to see a goat on 2 feet standing up, come out of the closet at night, dance around the room, and go back into the closet. I never really gave the story much thought until now, when I stayed over for quarantine and experienced a nightmare of my own. The first night I stayed, we all went to bed late at night, about 3 a.m. All the lights in the house were off, but I was still wide awake, lying on bed thinking about the hard situation the world is going through, when suddenly I heard it. Starting from one end of the room to the other, the sound got closer to me, passed right above where I lay, and continued to the window where it stopped. The tension built up fast and I was terrified out of my mind. There was absolutely no doubt that I had heard the footsteps. I knew the familiar, slow, casual pace from when I was 14. I totally freaked out and ran to my grandpa's room immediately to tell him what had happened. I told him what I had heard, but he just answered me that the house was old, and so it's pretty normal to hear creaking sounds. Still, he turned the dining room light on for me so I felt a little safer. I returned to my room and tried to go to sleep. About half an hour passed when the sound woke me up abruptly. This time the footsteps started from where they ended up the first time, by the window upstairs, and went right over me again and stopped when it reached the door of the upper room. A couple of minutes passed with no noise, and I thought it was over, when suddenly I heard it coming down the stairs with that distinct calm pace. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Silence as it reached the landing. Then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, silence again as it reached the first floor. I was completely frozen in shock. Whatever it was now on my floor of the house, and completely unaffected by the dining room light. I was staring at the doorway to my room. The dining room light was shining in, and my vision began to distort. I felt dizzy with fear, so I pulled the blankets over my head. Suddenly I heard a scratching sound from outside of my room. After a minute or so, I heard the door opening. 1, 2 steps, and then some dragging sound, as if hoops were scratching the wooden floor. At first I didn't realize the trajectory of the sound, but after a moment I knew exactly where it stopped, right underneath my bed. I was completely immobilized. I couldn't scream, run, or move in the slightest. All I could do was witness the nightmare I was experiencing. A couple of seconds passed when I saw a shadow coming from beneath the bed. It resembled a hand, but it had abnormally large fingers and nails. When it reached the upper side of the mattress, I took a deep breath and let out a loud scream. In a matter of seconds, my grandpa had made it to my room, turned on the lights, and I felt a colossal feeling of relief. When we examined the whole room, nothing was there. Needless to say, he still didn't believe me. So I did what any normal person would do. I draped a sheet over the side of the bed and slept underneath it. I wrapped myself tight in a comforter, put on headphones, and turned my back to the door. There could be a party of ghosts in my room, and I wouldn't even know. The next morning, my grandpa told my grandma about what had happened the night before. What she said gives me goosebumps till this day. She said, "Oh, that's weird. You know, your little cousin woke me up the last time she stayed here. She came in my room saying, 'Grandma, I hear footsteps.'"